Welcome to another week in the real estate world, which is everybody's world these days. And Phil Golfi's with me this week, obviously, to talk about what's going on. Lots of headlines that we'll address over the course of the next hour or so. But seeing I haven't talked to you in a month or so, Phil, how is life in your real estate world?
Yeah, life is good. It's busy. Just trying to keep up as per usual. And we got a lot going on, right? You know, it's almost the top of summer here. So it's those, just trying to juggle and schedule and, fit everything in and everyone in to make it work. But, we got a lot of fun things going on with our team. Last week, we actually had a Golfi Team baseball tournament that we put on for the first time. So our whole team got together. We were up on the Grimsby Mountain there. There's a new by the new fairgrounds. There's a new community park with a few ball diamonds, and we all got together and had a little baseball tournament. So that was a lot of fun. Nice little team building event. We're lucky we got a good leadership team, a great leadership team that put stuff together like this for our team, and it was nice to see everyone. As a group, right? Because Tim, we're all on Zoom meetings now. So, yep. We run a lot of our daily scheduling, office meetings and things like that on Zoom. And as real estate agents, there's a lot of time where, I always say it's kind of a lonely job, right? You're by yourself a lot of the time in your car, going to and from appointments. And when you're in the office, you're kind of in and out, or you're kind of bunkered down and taking care of your own business. So, I would say the last time we saw everyone would have been Christmas time. Or we had an award ceremony shortly after, but yeah, it was a really, really fun day to get out and see everyone. And the weather, it hasn't rained until this week, but the weather ended up being perfect, and away we go. So that was good.
What are you hearing from the people now that you get a chance to see them in person? And let's be honest, conversations go a whole lot better when you're in person. People tend to be not as guarded, and you're talking to a bunch of real estate people with boots on the ground. What are you hearing from people? Are they optimistic? Is it turning up for them? What's happening?
Yeah, we're all going through similar style things. We're all going through the same thing. Now, what's so great about our team is we cover such a large geographical region, right? We have agents up through Oakville, down and through Hamilton, and then obviously through Niagara. So, when you're talking about those, each region, and everyone has a little bit of a different take in terms of what's going on within their specific market, but it gives you a really good idea in terms of where we're at and where where we're going, and just speaking with those guys. But right now, a lot of the talk right now amongst the agents is the most recent interest rate hike is having a impact on our market today, right now. There's a listing that I just listed in Stony Creek. Really good listing, excellent listing, priced right, updated nicely, well taken care of. And 3.5 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I this listing probably would have went into, multiple offers, maybe 2, 3, 4 offers, and would have sold, really near the asking price, if not more. Fast forward to the interest rate hike, and 2.5 weeks later, we've only had about 4 showings on it. So, in terms of gauging this market right now, we feel it changing. We feel it changing quickly. And it's adjusting to it accordingly to ensure that, we're putting our sellers in the best position and putting our buyers in the best position. But it's changing pretty quickly. And I think that seems to be the general consensus amongst our team and what everyone's going through. And then we can look into, some further data and start to look at the appointments, right? Our brokerage has an appointment center, and they release stats every single week on, appointments booked in comparison to last week, appointments booked in comparison to this time last year. So we have a really good idea in terms of gauging of how the overall market's going and seeing where the appointments are at. And right now the appointments are down. The buyers are waiting. Now that, it's midsummer, right? And that happens usually. A lot of people get caught up with different events. It's wedding season, it's family picnic season, it's vacations, and everything else. So, there's a lot of distractions out there right now, but the market has cooled in comparison to, that second quarter kind of appreciation that we were experiencing. So we've just taken a little bit of a nap per se.
Did this interest rate surprise you? Did this one kind of come out of nowhere, or did you see it coming?
Yeah, you saw it coming because the inflation numbers came out, right? And inflation was up again. And the Bank of Canada only has one tool to combat inflation, and it's just increasing the interest rates. So, and Tim, I'll say this right now on the record. I think they're going to continue to go up. I think they're going up more. I think we're going to see another year of interest rate hikes, maybe 2, but what they're not going to increase them rapidly like they did before. I think they might increase them every quarter or maybe twice a year, but I still feel like we are going to keep on going up with these interest rates, because if our inflation is still going up in comparison to, as we raise the interest rates at what we're doing now, I really do think that they will continue to go up. Now, in talking to some, economists, there's some hearsay out there about, we can go up to 7%. That's kind of the threshold that they've identified for Canadians to be able to support. I don't know how true that is, but that seems to be kind of the rumor out there right now in terms of, where we could be going with interest rates. But I do not see them coming down anytime soon. That's for sure. And I do think, they're going to continue to go up. And it's just directly due to the fact of where we're at with inflation, the inflation numbers right now. So that's what, that's the golden nugget question is, interest rates, right? It's having an effect on our real estate prices. If you're a first-time home buyer, it's very hard to get approved with the current interest rate landscape right now. And then you combine that, we still have the stress test as well, right?
Well, that was going to be my next question, is who is this affecting more? Is it affecting the people who are renewing mortgages, or is it affecting people who are just looking at the real estate market and going, I'm not sure where those interest rates are going, so I'm going to hold off?
Yeah. I would say, you know what? I don't know who it's affecting more, but it's affecting everyone. Everyone that has a mortgage, you are being affected. I bought a home. I bought a condo in Grimsby in 2017. Okay, I paid $380,000 for it in 2017. I just renewed my mortgage for the first time. My mortgage payment now keep in mind I have a smaller mortgage amount. My mortgage payment increased almost $400 per month. Okay. So I was speaking with my brother. He's got a larger mortgage, right? He just renewed his mortgage. His mortgage just increased almost $1,200 a month, Tim, right? This is happening everywhere right now with these renewals that are coming up, and the new mortgage landscape of people that were in at a 279 or a low 3% mortgage, and now are renewing at 5.25, 5.5, or 6%. We're seeing significant increases on people's monthly mortgage amounts across the board, and you combine this with the already increased costs of living that has gone up, gas prices, groceries, entertainment, kids sports, right? We're in a landscape right now where there's people that are seriously considering and have already done so, sold their home because they simply can't afford it anymore. And right now with this landscape that we're in with the the interest rates, in some cases it's been cheaper to go out and rent a place than it is to own a place, right? When you go rent, you don't have to worry about any of the maintenance, the upkeep, the big the big ticket items, the roofs, the furnaces. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You pay a monthly fee, and you're good to go. So it's an interesting landscape right now as it is right now. And I don't want to say, I don't want to be too negative, but listen, it's the state that we're in. It's a hot topic. It's something that's going to be, on the forefront of our lives. And it's what's going on. I want to share a little story. And I compared myself to this lady. So this lady had a house in Grimsby, and she sold in a really good time. She got 1.2 million for a detached home in Grimsby. That same house today is probably worth 950,000, and she's renting a 2-bedroom condo for $2,000. That's all she's paying, $2,000 a month now. Okay, my same condo is a 1-bedroom condo. Me all in terms of a monthly cost, including my condo fee, mortgage payment, I'm paying about $850 per month more than her, on based on a monthly payment. So, you can go buy one, right? My condo would probably be worth $550,000 to $600,000. That payment would be well over $3,000 with the mortgage payment. Or you can go rent a 2-bedroom condo for $2,000 and save money and put it into something else. Right now, in my opinion, there's a lot of people that are looking into those comparing the cost of purchasing and owning in comparison to the cost of renting, and like I said, in that case right there, when I compare my situation to hers, she's way better off paying just $2,000 in rent per month in comparison to going and buying a new place. Now that will change eventually. There's a lot of benefits when it comes to owning a home, right? First and foremost, we've seen the appreciation values over the, forever, right? My dad talks about it all the time. Home values double every 10 years, right? Your home will double every 10 years. Now we're in a mini market cycle right now where it doesn't feel that way, but it's going to double, right? It's a forced savings account. And then you get the tax-free benefit, right? No, you will not pay capital gains on the appreciation value of your home. So there's a lot of good benefits about owning a home. If you were to ask me, should I buy in this market and should I own? I would absolutely, because this market cycle will end just like the other ones did, right?
Can you get a good deal right now though when you're driving around and you see there are places up? Are the people who are selling looking at it as if to say, maybe I need to lower the price to entice people? Is this a good time for that?
Yeah, big time, right? It's a good time to buy right now. Now, you might have a hard time in terms of finding what you want, just because there's not a lot of inventory. But right now, we're averaging about 30 days on market. Right, Tim? Like, there's still a lot of people out there that are still hanging on to those big prices and those big numbers that they were getting, in mid 20, March of 2022, and everybody, still wants that big ticket item that their neighbor got, that big ticket number, and there's a few people that haven't adjusted accordingly. And I have another story about that we can get into. It's a gentleman I met in Beamsville the other day who's still hanging on a little bit. But right now, if you're a good product in a good neighborhood and you're priced correctly, you'll sell in this market, right? And there'll be, in some cases, multiple offers. But if you're not going to adjust to the current market right now, and your house needs a little bit of work, or it's a little bit tired or a little bit worn, and it's not attractive to the larger buyer pools, you're going to take time, and it's going to sit on the market for a while, and that's what I'm experiencing right now, Tim.
Yeah, and obviously you're not going to put it up for sale at the same price you would have put it up for sale at a year ago. I mean, that's a big mistake because it's a different market. Right?
Yeah, bingo.
We've got to pause for a second here. We'll get back with Phil and the Golfi team on the Golfi Real Estate Show when we pause for this, and be right back. Welcome back, everybody. This is the Golfi Real Estate Show for this week. And Phil Golfi is with me this week as we discuss, we just spent a lot of time discussing interest rates, what effect it's had, And I know you had a story about a guy from Beamsville that you wanted to bring to the table.
Yeah. So, I mentioned in the last segment that there's a lot of people that are still holding on to that March of 2022 pricing, and they've adjusted a little bit, but they're still hanging on to it. So I had this guy call me from Beamsville yesterday. Great guy, and his house has been listed with 2 other agents already. He's followed the market closely. He's shown me, these spreadsheets that he has and all these comparable properties that have sold. And he was, really, really well educated in terms of what's going on in this economic environment and what the houses are selling around him for. And so I did my research and I brought my market comparables and we went back and forth in terms of strategy and marketing and things like that. And then, it came down to pricing, right? Yep. And as I went through the comparable homes within the neighborhood and within Beamsville, he had an excuse for every single one that didn't support the number that he wanted. And he was only comparing his houses to ones that have sold last year and the ones that are sold on, the ones that haven't sold that are currently on the market.
Right.
And I said to him, I said, if you were in my position, right, and you were advising, you the seller in terms of what you should be listed at to be able to get the most amount of money in the least amount of time. I said, what would you say? And I said, you have all the information that I have access to, and you've been following it closely, that you have. And we went back and forth and really, really, dissected in terms of where we should be on the market to make it attractive and to be successful. And he just had a hard time in terms of, looking at the actual data that supports a certain number, whereas he was distracted by the data that would be supporting a higher number, such as comparing it to listings that were currently active on the market or comparing it to listings that have sold, over 18 months ago. And so we went back and forth for a while and it was a real struggle to kind of communicate my position in terms of where I think the property should be. But that's what's going on right now in the market. Now we've adjusted, right? Because we've had to. Right, a lot of the sellers that have adjusted have sold, and now we have a full sample size in terms of what's going on within our market. But at that beginning transition stage, it was really difficult because you were, we always use the term you're chasing the market. Well, this guy is still chasing the market, and it's one of the biggest pitfalls and one of the biggest reasons that I see and I try to help people with and just show them the right data to pay attention to and use to be able to list their house efficiently and effectively to be successful. So that's just one of the conversations that I've had recently, but that's something that we're experiencing on a daily basis, and people calling us up and wanting to know the value of their home. And if they are considering selling, they want to know what price they should list it at to be successful. And I try to use a very collaborative approach, right? I'm not going to come in here and say, it's this number because I said so. You want to present the data, you want to present the facts, use the comparables, use the data, the market research, use the appointment center's data, and use all those things and combine it to making sure that, like I said, we're putting these sellers in the best possible position to get the most amount of money in the least amount of time.
There's a concerning statistic that it must be of concern to you in the business, and it comes as no surprise to some, is that there is a gap between real estate prices and what you have to make to be able to afford it. And apparently that gap is much bigger in Canada than it is in the United States. So as a real estate professional, does that bother you? How did we get here?
That's a great question. And I saw this article come up, and there's been so much talk about that, especially at the political level in terms of price points and average prices versus average incomes and so on and so forth. Here's what we know. our prices in Canada have been some of the fastest appreciating prices in the world, right? Our incomes have not kept up with those prices.
Right.
Right. So it's like, where are people getting the money from? And how does home ownership and buying a house still remain so attractive, even though, even as it appreciates so rapidly and so fast, right? Like, are we going to get to a time where people just turn around and say, no, like that's not for me. Home ownership, it's, I'm just going to write it off and say, no, thank you. Right. I'm okay without owning my home for the rest of my life. Right. I think, that position is going to come a lot quicker, a lot sooner. But when we start to compare it to, other countries, I mean, you go to Niagara Falls, right? What you get in Niagara Falls, Ontario versus Niagara Falls, New York, it's almost half, right? Like you can go to Niagara Falls, New York and buy a small bungalow for $250,000. That same small bungalow in Niagara Falls, Ontario is, $600,000 and it's 15 minutes away, right? It is really concerning. But the craziest thing is we felt this way in 2017. Like I remember being newer to the business in 2017 and going through that crazy market and feeling that way as well. And then you fast forward 7 years later and here we are again, and prices have almost doubled since 2017, and we're saying the same thing. So it's like, are we going to, is this just a constant trend that we're going to live in forever where prices are just going to keep on going?
And I mean, there's got to be an end game here somewhere, because that gap keeps widening. It's going to get to the point where it's not sustainable.
Yeah, and I mean, our price is going to continue to outperform, like real estate prices are going to continue to outperform the average incomes at the pace that they're doing, right? Yeah. Like that's not sustainable. But what we have here, Tim, is we have the equity that people are using from their homes, and they're giving it to their kids to go buy homes, right? And that's how a lot of the first-time home buyers are getting into the market. But they're also using that equity to go buy their second home and third home, and investors buying their fourth home, and then, that level up and that moving up style of investing. And that's where a lot of the buyers are how they're doing it is, like I said, very, very rarely will I work with a first-time home buyer who's not, receiving some type of financial aid, help, co-signing or something of that nature from a parent, right? And yep. if a first-time home buyer doesn't have access to that, they're put in a difficult position to get into the market. But it is the gap is huge. If we continue to have the housing shortage that we have right now in terms of supply, and we continue to, our population continues to grow, and the immigrants continue to come at the pace that they're coming, our housing is going to continue to be pushed up. Not at the pace that it was in 2021 and 2022, but at a similar pace that we've seen in the past, at a 5 to 8% appreciation rate, which is normal.
But our incomes are not going up 5 to 8% at the same time, and therein lies the problem, right?
Right, but people will just use their house as in an investment bank, right?
Well, and that gets us to the next subject on the show this week, is that we found this out, and I was talking to a few financial people this week on the air, that the household debt in Canada, it's always been high compared to others in the G7, but it's the highest of any of the countries in the G7 right now. And that's got to be a concern, because I mean, homes are an expensive proposition to a lot of people, but we are putting everything else on plastic. It seems.
It is concerning, right? And that's what we're going to see when these interest rates rise, right? Do Canadians know how to budget is going to be the next question, because if one thing that we know is Canadians will pay their mortgages, right? And everything else will fall by the wayside. So as we talked about in the previous, segment, I still strongly believe that we're going to go up with interest rates. I still do. I think we can go up as much as 7%. And we're going to have to tighten up, right? Like, Tim, there's no stress test to go buy a new car.
No.
Right? Those guys at the dealerships aren't going to say, oh, we got to get you approved, and make sure that you can afford. They'll sell whatever car that however much you're willing to pay. So, as much as we've tried to implement some really good financial securities for Canadians in terms of home buying, with this stress test, they can turn around and go buy a brand new truck, because they can afford it. But because
or can they?
I mean, if they walk into the bank and the bank says, yeah, you can, then they can't, right?
Yeah, right.
But when their mortgage increases $1,000 a month, well, what happens, right? So it's that's the biggest question right now is you're right. We're we've been overspending. Everything's on plastic. And it puts us in the position we are in now. And I think this is going to be a wake-up call and a reality check for a lot of people to go back to traditional spending and learning how to budget, right? There's this guy I see on TikTok all the time. He's an older guy. And people call into his radio show, and he always posts these little clips. And he always helps people that are in significant debts, and they share their stories in terms of how they got there. And it's unbelievable in terms of, some of the financial issues and things like that are going on right now. And I think that, people will be exposed in the current economic environment with the way the interest rates are if they're not careful about budgeting and how they're spending their money.
I want to move to, it's a situation, speaking of affordability and whatnot, in Hamilton. The council in the city of Hamilton has been debating an idea to help some tenants buy an apartment in downtown Hamilton. I'm talking tenants who are renting at the moment. So what's this all about?
Yeah, this is something that's, I saw this story and I said, this is kind of, interesting what's going on. So there's a 21 unit apartment building downtown Hamilton, and the tenants have kind of gone on the proactive strategy and found out that the person is trying to sell it. Okay, the owner's trying to sell it, and the tenants have gotten together and they're trying to make a co-op housing program, co-op housing unit. So they're trying to pool together money to buy the building and turn it into a co-op, so it doesn't get purchased by a big real estate investment trust company, and then all of a sudden there's you can do those renovictions, and they're just trying to protect their home in terms of where they live. So from my understanding is they've qualified for a mortgage through CMHC, and they've been approved and they're ready to go. But the other problem is trying to get this deal across the board and outbid, anyone else who's trying to purchase the building as well.
Is this a wave of the future, Phil?
Well, I don't know. Here, I'll give you an example, Tim. Here, and I was at a building downtown Hamilton on Vineland Ave. Okay, mm-hmm. And this guy was a young guy. He had a 2-bedroom apartment, 1 bathroom, really nice unit. And he's paying like $380 in a condo fee per month, right? Yep. And now we're looking at comparables, and we're trying to compare it to other similar style buildings in the neighborhood. And I pull up this other building, I believe it's on Sherman in Hamilton, and they're only paying about $120 a month in a condo fee. Right. And I looked at them. I go, okay, well, you guys have property managers, and you're going to pay a large condo fee because you're paying for those property managers and so on and so forth. Where this other one, it's a co-op where it's self-run, self-managed by the owners of the building, right? So would you rather live in a co-op and pay $120 per month and kind of self-manage it with a small little board and run it together amongst, the 21, unit residents? Or would you rather pay $350 or $380 and the property manager, obviously they're in a profitable business and they're there to help, but they're running a business as well, and they're hiring other people to cut the lawns and snow removal and garbage and so on and so forth. So these costs are going to add up pretty quickly when you're hiring a business to run your condo for you. So in some ways I do see it's a really successful way in terms of running small apartment buildings that are 20 units or less. In other situations, it's not it is not sustainable at all. There would just be too many hands, too many chefs in the kitchen per se, and the buildings can get really run down, and if they're not taken care of properly. And I think in the end you need some sort of decision-making process or decision maker. But when they're run well by the residents, it's a great way, Tim, to be able to run a building. But if they're not, it can go downhill really bad pretty fast.
When we come back, looking for a home at $200,000 in Ontario? Are you serious? Well, they're there, but well, we'll talk about that when we come back on the Golfi Real Estate Show. This week, Phil Golfi in to talk about the issues in and around the real estate biz. Now, there was a headline, and I talked about this on my regular morning show the other day, about people who are looking for a home at or under $200,000. And I, was remembering back in the day when I first bought my house, I thought, $100,000 was an unattainable. To me, that was, $1 million. Right. That was $10 million. I'm never going to get to a home for $100,000. Now, to find a home at the $200,000 mark, not only does it seem ridiculous, but is it? I mean, are they out there? No?
Doesn't seem real, eh, Tim?
No.
At all. Yeah, so, they are out there, right? Here's the thing. The problem is some of these homes get listed under 200,000, and it's a pricing strategy to be able to, capture the headlines like we're talking right now, and they're going to sell for $250,000 over asking because they got 35 offers and so on. But there are some cases and situations where there has been homes, you go up into, up northern Ontario, and you can find a, a nice little log cabin for under 200,000, or something that, other situations that have happened where there are homes under 200,000. But, we found, this article states that the less than 1% of homes listed on Point Two Homes or Realtor.ca of all listings are under $200,000. So they're far and few between. And this is why that we see so many people moving out of province. Like the amount of people that I have helped that have moved out of province, out to Nova Scotia, out to New Brunswick, those places, and to find affordability. Like I remember helping this one couple. This was, maybe 5-6 years ago. And they're moving out to Nova Scotia, and they showed me this place they bought for like $95,000. It was it had like 90 acres. It had like a chapel on it. It had like a massive shop, and it had like a 2,000 square foot bungalow on it. And I was like, this is unbelievable. So there's that attraction in terms of, going, a lot of people having to go out of province to find that. But in Ontario, like it's just so difficult to find anything for under $200,000. I've even seen, recently some of the, the trailers that have sold, right? And those aren't even under $200,000 anymore. So it's interesting. It's to see what's going on right now, but it's, everything's just crazy when it comes to prices of real estate.
It's funny because you sent me a couple of listings that were under 200,000. Not in the Niagara area necessarily, but one up in Gravenhurst, which is a lovely part of the province, and one in Loring. Have you come close to selling a house in the 200,000 range in a long time, Phil?
I remember my first year of real estate. This is so funny. In my first year of real estate, one of my best friends was buying. He wanted to buy a rental property in Welland, sorry, in Thorold.
Yep.
He was buying a rental property in Thorold, and I remember this is so fun. So we were going back and forth, negotiating, and I think the seller was at 198, and we were at like 195, and the seller wasn't willing to come down, and my buyer was not willing to come up. So I think that was probably one of the only times I remember, in terms of selling a home or negotiating on a property for under $200,000. And I vividly remember it because looking back now, like, you obviously my friend who was negotiating, wish he had bought it. That house is probably worth $500,000 now. Right. But at the time it was, at the time you still feel like it's a lot of money. Right. But in hindsight, it's wasn't much in comparison to today's market.
So you got to go a little ways to find them at 200 or under, and most of those are mobile homes, I would think.
Yeah, yeah. Or we've seen situations where a house burnt down or is half built, or something, and it's just land value, or maybe the house, the land's contaminated, or there's environmental issues, things like that, like very out of the ordinary situations and concerns to find a house for under $200,000. But like I said before, you go up to different parts of Northern Ontario, you will be able to find something for under 200,000. But like I said before, out of province, you go out east, you can get something, seriously special for that price, which is a lot of people. That's what a lot of people are doing.
You can find them in Ontario, but you're generally a long way away from your local LCBO. So anyway, let's let me take you through a hypothetical situation. You're going to an open house. It's a Saturday. It's an open house, and you're looking through the house. Take me through the things that you should be looking for. What are the things that should send up red flags when I'm looking at a home?
Yeah, I mean, we look through so many houses every single day as realtors. And we're so lucky to be able to work with a wide range of buyers who are all looking for a wide range of products. Now, one of my biggest red flags is just ownership, pride of ownership. Right? There are so many different things that you can see in terms of a home that's well maintained in comparison to a home that's not maintained. Right? And you feel it right away in terms of, just looking at the outside, looking at the landscape, eaves troughs. Are the eaves troughs cleaned? Has the furnace filters been changed, on a consistent basis? Are the downspouts, away from the house, right? Like just pride of ownership style of things that will jump out to anyone. In terms, and I think it replicates the rest of the home. But another one is too much scent, is a top one as well, right? Like if you walk in and it just smells like bleach, and they have the plugins going, and candles, like it's just it's something that they're trying, it's like, obviously they're trying to distract you from something, whether it's a pet smell or a smoke smell. But that's a big one.
I was always told, though, when you're trying to sell a house, bake some bread.
Oh, big time. Tim, it's unbelievable when you walk through a house and they got a pie going, or some fresh baked cookies, or something along those. And and then the fireplace is going, like you got a nice wood burning fireplace, and it just makes it so warm and so cozy for somebody that's looking at that house. So there's a few little tricks to the trade when it comes to showing properties, and that's one tip I always give my sellers. If you're gonna if you have a lot of showings, don't be afraid to bake an apple pie or some cookies and get the scents up and make it smell really good.
All right, let's talk about some of the other red flags. You're going through, and you go into the bathroom or the kitchen, and the tiling looks a little dirty or ratty, or whatever word you want to use. Warning?
Yeah, big time. Like I always say, like to anyone, it's especially when it comes to the cosmetic and the finishing touches in a home, is hire a professional, right? You don't want to try and do a job on your own, and then somebody shows up and says, that doesn't look good. I think I got to tear that out. Now, this washroom that you think you were getting, right? You put in a brand new washroom, you did it all yourself, you did the tile, and then you think you're increasing your property value. But if it's not done right and it doesn't look good, I mean, somebody's going to look at it and say, well, it's going to just cost me more money because I'm going to rip it out and redo it. So I always say, especially when it comes to the cosmetic stuff and the finishing pieces, hire a professional and get it done clean and neatly so it looks good. I always say to people, sellers are always like, Phil, is there anything that we need to do to fix our house to get it ready for sale, right? That's one of the big questions that we're asked. And I said, people notice inefficiencies first in a room right away. You can have the most beautiful kitchen, granite countertops, wood cabinets, white, whatever. But if there's a hole in your ceiling, or if there's a crack in the, the black splash, or if, there's, whatever, people are going to notice that first, and it's gonna take their attention away from what you want them to notice. So if you can fix those little inefficiencies, and I'm talking nail pops, I'm talking scratches, I'm talking, just holes, even sometimes those are things that I would fix. Now, in some of the bigger ticket items, obviously, the foundation, your cistern and your septic for the rural properties, or your furnace and air conditioner, or things like that. Those are the big, the roof. Those are your big ticket items that people will turn around and completely walk away from a sale if those items are not taken care of, and if those items are problematic, or could be or will be problematic in the home in the future. People will just turn around and completely walk away from the deal if those ones aren't taken care of.
What are some signs that, as you're looking through a home, that the homeowner has been either neglecting or just not keeping up with the maintenance? Or what kinds of things should you be looking for there?
Yeah, I mean, water is a killer, Tim, right? Yep. Like, yep. For any homeowner right now, you want to get the water away from your foundation, right? You do not want to have pooling water around the foundation. It's eventually going to creep its way into the house. And then the second one is eaves troughs. Like, you got to clean the eaves troughs. I was at a house yesterday, I was showing it. It was a house on Stony Creek Mountain, and it was raining, and the eaves troughs weren't draining. And I said to my buyer, and I said, like, look at this, right? Now, the eaves troughs are pooling. Water wasn't coming back into the house, but that's just a sign of a small maintenance item that, like I said, would reflect the rest of the property and the rest of the house if they're not taken care of correctly. It's like, okay, well, this seller, didn't care to change their eaves troughs. Like, what else are they not doing in terms of just, home ownership, home maintenance items that I should be concerned about? Because this is one right here. And what problems could that cause in the future? Is this something that's gonna, if I buy the house today, I'm still 2 months away from my closing date. What happens if there's a leak that happens? Well, I've already bought the house, right? Yep. So those are some red flags. Those are some questions. But Tim, most people are good, right? Like, I always say to people, right away, right? When you walk into a house that's really nicely maintained, there's tons of pride of ownership. You see it, right? It's you can tell, you can see it, you can feel it, and then vice versa. If you walk into a property that hasn't been nicely maintained and wasn't taken care of, you can see it just in terms of the overall quality and style of home.
Phil, we have to run. Believe it or not, we're out of time for this week, but we'll get back together next week. It may be your dad, maybe you, but we'll chat on the Golfi Real Estate Show next time around. Thanks, Phil.
Sounds great, Tim.